Richard Carter sat alone at his usual corner table in Blue Water, the most expensive restaurant in the city. The staff knew him well. Every Sunday at exactly 6 in the evening, he arrived with his 16-year-old daughter, Lily. But today was different. The tension between them was clear to everyone. Richard checked his watch and frowned. He was a man who had built his fortune on being on time. At 52, his dark hair showed touches of gray at the temples, and fine lines marked his face. These were signs of the stress that came with running Carter Technologies, now worth over $30 billion. "Would you like to order now, Mr. Carter, or wait for Lily?" asked the server. "We'll wait," Richard said, his voice firm. "She's in the restroom." The truth was, they had argued in the car, again. The same argument they'd been having for months, now. Richard wanted Lily to apply to Harvard Business School someday, just like he had done. Lily wanted to study art at a small college in California. To Richard, this was a waste of potential and money. To Lily, it was her dream. 3 years ago, Richard's wife, Paula, had died from cancer. Since then, the gap between father and daughter had grown wider each day. Richard didn't know how to talk to Lily anymore. All he knew was work, numbers, and business deals. He didn't understand art or feelings or teenage girls. Richard sipped his water and looked around the restaurant. The soft lighting made everything seem warm and perfect. The other diners wore expensive clothes and jewelry. This was his world. He felt comfortable here, where everything had a price and made sense. He noticed Lily hadn't returned after 15 minutes. Concerned, he stood up, intending to check on her. That's when he saw her in the hallway near the restrooms. She wasn't alone. A young waitress stood with Lily, offering her a tissue. Richard recognized her as Kate Miller. She had served them a few times before. Kate wasn't their regular server, but Richard remembered her because she always smiled genuinely, unlike the forced smiles of many people he met. Richard stayed back watching the interaction. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but he could see that Lily was crying. Her long blonde hair, so much like her mother's, fell forward as she wiped her eyes. Kate put a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. There was something about the way she stood, patient, kind, attentive, that made Richard pause. Kate was probably around 28 or 29. She had simple brown hair pulled back into a neat ponytail. Nothing fancy or special about her appearance, yet there was a warmth to her that seemed to draw people in. Richard had noticed that other customers always seemed happy when she served them. As he watched, Kate said something that made Lily laugh through her tears. Richard felt a pang in his chest. When was the last time he had made his daughter laugh? He couldn't remember. Kate looked up and noticed Richard standing there. She gave a small professional nod, said something else to Lily, and then walked back toward the kitchen. Lily took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and returned to the table. "Sorry," she mumbled as she sat down. Richard cleared his throat. "It's fine. Are you ready to order now?" Lily nodded, not meeting his eyes. Her face was still slightly red from crying. "Was that waitress bothering you?" Richard asked, though he knew the answer. "Her name is Kate," Lily said. "And no, she was being nice to me. She noticed I was upset and asked if I was okay." Richard nodded, unsure what to say next. Their regular server arrived to take their order, and the moment passed. Throughout dinner, they barely spoke. Richard tried asking about school, but Lily gave short answers. She pushed her food around more than she ate it. Richard felt helpless. Before Paula died, she had been the bridge between them. She knew how to talk to Lily, how to make Richard understand his daughter. Without her, they were like strangers who happened to live in the same large, empty house. When Kate passed by their table later, she gave Lily a small smile. To Richard's surprise, Lily smiled back, a real smile that reached her eyes. "You seem to like her," Richard said after Kate had gone. Lily shrugged. "She listens, and she doesn't judge." The word stung Richard. Was that what he did? Judge his daughter? He didn't think of it that way. He just wanted what was best for her future. "She told me she's working here to pay for her education." Lily continued, surprising Richard by volunteering information. She's studying to be a teacher. She works 2 other jobs, too. Richard raised an eyebrow. 3 jobs? That seems excessive. Lily's face hardened. Not everyone has billions of dollars, Dad. Some people have to work hard for what they want. I work hard, Richard said, feeling defensive. I know, but it's different. Lily sighed. Kate said she grew up poor. Her mom raised her alone and got sick a lot. Now Kate helps support her. She said following your dream is worth the struggle. Richard felt uncomfortable. He knew, intellectually, that most people lived very different lives from his, but it had been a long time since he'd thought about it in real terms. He'd grown up wealthy himself. His father had been a successful lawyer who left him a small fortune. Richard had turned that into an empire. Hard work, yes, but he'd never worried about paying rent or buying food. As they were leaving, Richard saw Kate again. She was serving, an elderly couple leaning down to hear the old man better. There was genuine care in her expression. It reminded him of Paula. On the drive home, Lily was quiet, staring out the window at the city lights. Their large mansion was on the outskirts of town, set apart from everyone else. I was thinking, Richard said carefully, maybe we could talk more about your art school options. I don't know much about them. Lily turned to him, surprise clear on her face. Really? Yes. Perhaps you could show me your work sometime, the new pieces you've been working on. A small smile appeared on Lily's. Person, I'd like that. Richard nodded, focusing on the road ahead. He wasn't sure what had changed his mind. Maybe it was seeing someone like Kate, who had so little compared to them, yet seemed to have something he and Lily had lost. Connection, purpose, joy. When they arrived home, Lily didn't immediately go to her room as she usually did. Instead, she hesitated in the hallway. Dad? Thanks for dinner. You're welcome, Richard said, feeling a small warmth in his chest. After Lily went upstairs, Richard sat in his home office, not working for once. He thought about Kate Miller and how she had made his daughter smile with just a few kind words. He thought about a young woman working 3 jobs to follow her dream and care for her mother. He opened his laptop and searched for Kate Miller in the restaurant's employee database. He had access as a VIP customer. Her file was simple. Address. In a poor part of town. Started working at Blue Water 8 months ago. Excellent performance reviews. Nothing special on paper. Yet she had done something in 5 minutes that Richard hadn't been able to do in months. Reach Lily. Richard leaned back in his expensive leather chair and made a decision. He would return to Blue Water next week. And, the week after, he would watch and learn about Kate Miller. Perhaps she had something to teach him about his own daughter. What Richard didn't know then was that this simple decision would change not just Kate's life forever, but his and Lily's, too. For the next 3 Sundays, Richard and Lily continued their dinner routine at Blue Water Restaurant. But something had changed. Lily no longer dragged her feet when it was time to go. She seemed almost eager, though Richard knew it wasn't for his company. Richard requested Kate as their server each time. He told the manager it was because she provided excellent service, which was true. But his real reason was to watch how Kate interacted with Lily. Each week, his daughter seemed to open up more in Kate's presence. They talked about art, books, and music, things Richard knew little about. On their 4th Sunday visit, Richard arrived earlier than usual. He told his driver he wanted to make a phone call in private before Lily joined him. But once inside, he sat at the bar where he could observe Kate without being noticed. Kate moved through the restaurant with easy grace. She carried heavy trays without complaint. She smiled at rude customers who barely looked at her. She helped an elderly woman who spilled her water. Small acts of kindness that most people wouldn't notice. Richard noticed. When a young couple with a crying baby looked stressed, Kate stopped to make silly faces at the child. The baby laughed, giving the parents a moment of peace to enjoy their meal. When a businessman yelled at Kate because his steak wasn't cooked exactly to his liking, she apologized calmly and fixed the problem without getting upset. She's something special, isn't she? Said the bartender, following Richard's gaze. Richard nodded, embarrassed to be caught staring. She seems very dedicated. The bartender wiped a glass. Works harder than anyone I know. 3 jobs in taking. Night classes, never complains. 3 jobs? Richard asked, though Lily had already told him this. Yeah, she's here 5 nights a week. Mornings at a coffee shop downtown. Weekends at the library. Don't know when she sleeps. The bartender shook his head. And still finds time to help her mom when she's sick. Richard thanked him for the information and moved to his regular table. When Lily arrived, her face lit up seeing Kate across the room. Richard felt a pang of jealousy, then shame for feeling jealous. At least his daughter was happy around someone. Later that evening, as Kate served their dessert, Richard asked her, "How long have you worked here, Kate?" She seemed surprised by his personal question. "Almost 9 months now, Mr. Carter." "And you're studying to be a teacher, I hear?" Kate glanced at Lily, who looked down at her plate. "Yes, sir. Elementary education." "That's a lot of work for not much money," Richard said without thinking. Kate's smile remained, but her eyes hardened, slightly. "Some jobs aren't about the money, Mr. Carter." Richard felt properly chastised. "Of course, I didn't mean to imply." "It's fine," Kate said. "Is there anything else I can get for you both?" After she left, Lily glared at him. "Why did you have to say that?" "I was just making conversation," Richard defended himself. "You made it sound like being a teacher isn't important because it doesn't make you rich." Richard sighed. "That's not what I meant." But he wondered if deep down, that was exactly what he meant. In his world, success was measured by wealth and power. When was the last time he had valued someone for their character rather than their net worth? The next week, Richard went to the coffee shop where Kate worked mornings. He told himself he was just curious. He wore casual clothes instead of his usual expensive suit, hoping to blend in. The coffee shop was busy with morning customers. Kate worked the counter, taking orders and making drinks. Even here, she remembered regular customers' names and orders. She moved quickly, but never seemed rushed or stressed. Richard ordered a simple black coffee and sat in a corner with his laptop. He pretended to work while watching Kate over the rim of his cup. After her shift ended, he followed her at a distance, telling himself he wasn't stalking her. He was just gathering information. Kate walked 6 blocks to a small apartment building in a neighborhood that had seen better days. The building needed paint and repairs. Some windows had cracks. Richard felt out of place in his designer jeans and cashmere sweater, even though they were his casual clothes. As Kate approached her building, she stopped to help an old man carry his groceries up the steps. The man wasn't even going to the same building. He lived next door. Yet Kate took time she didn't have to help him. Richard watched from across the street, fascinated by her natural kindness. 2 days later, Richard sent his assistant to the library where Kate worked weekends. He asked for a full report on her duties and behavior. His assistant returned confused by the request, but reported that Kate worked in the children's section, organizing books and reading stories to kids. "She doesn't seem like someone important," his assistant said. "Should I dig deeper into her background?" "No," Richard said quickly. "That won't be necessary." That Sunday at Blue Water, Richard overheard Kate talking to another server near the kitchen. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but their voices carried. "I don't know what I'm going to do," Kate said, her voice tight with worry. "The letter says all. Tenants have to move out in 60 days. They're turning the whole building into luxury condos." "Can't you fight it?" asked the other server. "Not really. The owner has the right to sell, and there's nothing else I can afford in the city. I might have to move back in with my mom, but that's an hour commute each way. I don't know how I'll keep all 3 jobs and my classes." "That's terrible. Have you looked into assistance programs?" Kate laughed without humor. "I make too much for assistance, but not enough to afford rent in this city. It's fine. I'll figure something out. I always do." Richard pretended not to have heard when Kate came to take their order, but he couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. The unfairness of it struck him. Here was someone doing everything right, working hard, getting an education, helping others. Yet one decision by a property owner could derail her entire life. That night, after dropping Lily at home, Richard had his driver take him back to Kate's neighborhood. He sat in his luxury car looking at the rundown building she called home. People walked by looking tired after long work days. A group of children played on the sidewalk with a worn soccer ball. An old woman watered plants on her tiny balcony. These were lives so different from his own. Richard had multiple homes around, the world that he rarely visited. He had rooms he'd never even entered in his main house. Kate struggled to keep one small apartment. As he watched the neighborhood, Richard saw something he hadn't expected. Community. Neighbors greeted each other. A man fixed a bicycle for a young boy. 2 women chatted while hanging laundry. Despite having less, these people seemed connected in ways Richard wasn't with anyone except perhaps Lily. And even that relationship was strained. On the drive back to his mansion, Richard made a phone call. "I need information on a property," he told his real estate manager. "An apartment building on Elm Street. Find out who owns it and what they're asking for it." "Are you looking to invest in that area?" his manager asked, surprised. "It's not exactly an up-and-coming neighborhood." "Just get me the information," Richard said, "and I need it by tomorrow." As he ended the call, Richard wasn't entirely sure what he planned to do. But for the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with making money. He thought of Kate's words to Lily about following dreams being worth the struggle. He thought of Kate's mother, sick and dependent on her daughters. 3 jobs. Most of all, he thought about his own daughter, who seemed to light up around Kate in a way she never did with him. There was a lesson here, one Richard was just beginning to understand. Richard sat in his large office, looking at the papers on his desk. He now owned the apartment building where Kate lived. The purchase had been simple for him, just money changing hands. His real estate manager thought he was crazy to buy property in that area, but Richard didn't care. His plan was still forming in his mind. He could stop the conversion to luxury condos. He could lower the rent instead of raising it. He could fix the building and make it better for the people who lived there. But he wasn't ready to make any announcements yet. He wanted to learn more about Kate first. Sunday came again, and Richard and Lily arrived at Blue Water for their usual dinner. But something was wrong. Kate wasn't there. "Where is Kate today?" Lily asked their new server, a young man named Ben. "She had to take emergency leave," Ben explained. "Her mom got really sick. Pneumonia, I think. Kate had to go take care of her." Lily's face fell. "Will she be back soon?" Ben shrugged. "I hope so. But her mom lives in Grove Hill. That's about 3 hours from here, and Kate doesn't have a car. She took the bus." Richard listened carefully. Grove Hill was a small town with limited medical facilities. If Kate's mother had serious pneumonia, she would need good care. "That's terrible," Lily said. "Is there anything we can do to help?" "Not really," Ben said. "Kate's very private about her problems. She wouldn't want charity." The meal was quiet that night. Lily picked at her food, clearly disappointed by Kate's absence. Richard was lost in thought. He had resources that could help, but Ben was right. Kate seemed like the type of person who valued her independence. On the drive home, Lily suddenly burst into tears. Richard was alarmed. "Lily? What's wrong?" "Everything," Lily cried. "I miss Mom, I miss having someone to talk to. You're always working or thinking about work. You don't understand me at all." Richard pulled the car over. "That's not fair. I'm trying my best." "Your best isn't very good then," Lily said, wiping her eyes angrily. "At least Kate listens to me. She understands what it's like to lose someone you love. Her dad died when she was young." Richard hadn't known this about Kate. "I didn't realize you and Kate had gotten so close. She's the only adult who treats me like my feelings matter," Lily said. "Do you know what she told me that first day when I was crying in the restaurant? She said it's okay to be sad about missing Mom, but it's also okay to follow my own path. She said Mom would want me to be true to myself." Richard felt a lump in his throat. "She's right about that. Your mother would want you to be happy." "Then why won't you let me study art?" Lily asked. "It's the only thing that makes me feel close to Mom now. She always encouraged my drawing." Richard looked at his daughter, really looked at her for the first time in months. Her eyes, so like Paula's, were filled with pain and longing. He had been so focused on what he thought was best for her future that he hadn't considered what she needed now to heal. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I've been so caught up in my own ideas that I haven't been listening to you. That changes now." Lily looked at him with surprise. "Really?" "Really," Richard said. "When we get home, will you show me your art, your recent pieces?" Lily nodded, a small smile appearing through her tears. That night, Richard sat in Lily's art studio, a room he had barely entered before. She showed him paintings and drawings that took his breath away. There was real talent here, real passion. One painting in particular caught his eye, a portrait of a woman who looked remarkably like Paula, surrounded by colorful flowers. "That's how I remember Mom," Lily said, always surrounded by her garden. Richard felt tears sting his eyes. "It's beautiful, Lily. She would be so proud of you." Later, alone in his study, Richard made 2 important phone calls. The first was, to Grove Hill Community Hospital. "This is Richard Carter. I want to speak to whoever is in charge of a patient named Miller. She was recently admitted with pneumonia." After being transferred several times, Richard spoke with a doctor who confirmed that Susan Miller had been admitted 2 days ago with severe pneumonia. "Her daughter is with her now," the doctor said. "Ms. Miller doesn't have insurance, so we're discussing transfer options." "That won't be necessary," Richard said firmly. "I'm covering all expenses for Susan Miller's care. I want her to receive the best treatment possible, and I want this arrangement to remain anonymous." His second call was to his company's board of directors. "I'm taking a leave of absence," he announced, shocking the other board members, "effective immediately, for at least 3 months. "But the Henderson merger," one board member began. "Can wait," Richard finished, "or proceed without me. My family needs me more right now." The next morning, Richard took Lily to school himself instead of sending her with the driver. "I've been thinking," he said as they drove. "Maybe we could look at some art schools together, research the best programs." Lily's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," Richard said. "Your mother would want me to support your dreams, not force mine on you." Meanwhile, in Grove Hill, Kate sat beside her mother's hospital bed. Susan Miller was sleeping, her breathing still labored but improved from yesterday. Kate held her mother's hand, worry etched on her tired face. A nurse entered the room. "Ms. Miller, I have some news about your mother's medical bills." Kate's stomach tightened. This was the conversation she had been dreading. Her mother needed to stay in the hospital, but Kate couldn't afford the mounting costs. "The bills have been taken care of," the nurse said. Kate stared at her. "What do you mean, taken care of?" "Someone has arranged to cover all expenses. Past, present, and future care related to this illness." "That's not possible," Kate said. "Who would do that?" The nurse checked her notes. "The donor wishes to remain anonymous, but everything is covered. The private room, specialist consultations, medications, everything." Kate couldn't believe it. Things like this didn't happen in real life. It must be a mistake. "There's more," the nurse continued. "Your mother has been approved for transfer to Memorial Hospital in the city when she's stable enough to move. They have a top respiratory specialist there." Kate shook her head in disbelief. Memorial was the best hospital in the region. Only wealthy patients usually went there. "This doesn't make sense," Kate said. "Are you sure there hasn't been a mix-up?" "No mix-up," the nurse assured her. "The paperwork is all in order. You should focus on your mother now, not on the bills." After the nurse left, Kate sat in stunned silence. Who would do this for them? She didn't know anyone with that kind of money. Her friends were all working-class people like herself. The only wealthy people she knew were the customers at Blue Water, and they didn't know anything about her personal life, except maybe Lily and her father. Kate had mentioned her mother to Lily a few times. But why would a billionaire care about a waitress and her sick mother? Kate looked at her mother sleeping peacefully now that her pain medication had kicked in. Whatever had happened, whatever mistake or miracle had occurred, Kate was grateful. For the first time in days, she allowed herself to relax slightly. Back in the city, Richard visited the coffee shop where Kate worked. He spoke with the manager, introducing himself as a businessman interested in community investment. Kate Miller has worked here for about a year, the manager told him. Best employee I've ever had. Always on time, never complains. She's currently away caring for her mother, Richard said. Will her job be waiting when she returns? The manager looked uncomfortable. I'd like to say yes, but business has been slow. I can't hold her position open indefinitely. Richard nodded thoughtfully. What if I were to make an investment in your business, enough to cover any losses while holding Kate's position? The manager's eyebrows shot up. You'd do that for someone you don't even know? Richard smiled slightly. Let's just say I believe in supporting hardworking people. Later that day, Richard did the same at the library, making a generous donation specifically earmarked for the children's program where Kate worked. His phone rang as he was leaving the library. It was his real estate manager with news about Kate's apartment building. The inspection report came back, his manager said. The place needs major work, electrical, plumbing, structural repairs. It would be cheaper to tear it down and rebuild. Then that's what we'll do, Richard said. But not luxury condos, affordable housing, quality housing that working people can afford. There was a long pause on the line. This is very unlike you, Richard. Richard looked out at the city streets, seeing them differently now. Maybe it's time for me to change. 2 weeks passed before Kate returned to the city. Her mother was doing much better after receiving excellent care at Memorial Hospital. The doctor said Susan could continue her recovery at home with regular nurse visits, all covered by her mysterious benefactor. Kate's first day back at Blue Water Restaurant was busy. She was surprised to find her job still waiting for her. The same had happened at the coffee shop and the library. Everyone seemed happy to see her return. No questions asked about her extended absence. It felt strange, almost too perfect, as Kate prepared for the dinner shift. The restaurant owner, Mr. Peterson, asked to speak with her privately. Kate, there's someone who wants to meet with you in the private dining room, he said. Kate frowned. Who is it? Richard Carter. He's been asking about you. Kate's stomach tightened. Why would a billionaire want to meet with her? Had he figured out she'd been talking to his daughter about personal things? Was he angry? Don't worry, Mr. Peterson added, seeing her concern. It's good news. Trust me. Kate straightened her uniform and took a deep breath before entering the private dining room. Inside, Richard Carter sat alone at a table, dressed in a simple button-down shirt rather than his usual expensive suit. Mr. Carter, Kate said formally. You wanted to see me? Richard stood and gestured to the chair across from him. Please sit down, and call me Richard. Kate sat stiffly, her hands folded in her lap. Is this about Lily? I hope I haven't overstepped by talking with her. Richard smiled, surprising Kate. She had rarely seen him smile in all the time she'd served him. This isn't about Lily. Well, not directly. It's about you, Kate. Kate shifted uncomfortably. Me? I've purchased this restaurant, Richard said simply. Kate's eyes widened. You bought Blue Water? Yes. And I'd like to offer you a new position, restaurant manager, with flexible hours that would allow you to finish your education. Kate stared at him in shock. This had to be a joke. I don't understand, she said finally. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Richard leaned forward slightly. I know more than you think. I know you work 3 jobs to support yourself and help your mother. I know you're studying to be a teacher because you want to make a difference in children's lives. I know you're kind to everyone, even when they don't deserve it. Kate felt her face grow warm. Have you been checking up on me? Yes, Richard admitted. At first I was curious about the waitress who could make my daughter smile when I couldn't. Then I became interested in your story. You have something special, Kate. Something I lost sight of long ago. Kate stood up, her pride flaring. I don't need charity, Mr. Carter, I'm doing fine on my own. This isn't charity, Richard said calmly. It's an investment in someone with real potential. The position comes with fair compensation for your skills and experience. You'd be earning it. Kate hesitated. The offer was tempting. As manager, she could earn enough from one job to quit the others and focus on finishing her degree. But something didn't add up. Why would a businessman like you buy a restaurant? This isn't the type of business you usually invest in. Richard looked thoughtful. I'm restructuring my priorities. For too long, I've focused only on profit. Now I'm interested in community investment in people. This restaurant is just the beginning. Kate slowly sat back down. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Richard suggested, but think about it first, if you need to. Kate studied his face, looking for signs of deception or hidden motives. Instead, she saw something unexpected, sincerity, and perhaps a hint of hope. I'll think about it, she said finally. That evening, Kate found Lily waiting outside the restaurant after closing. Lily? What are you doing here so late? Kate asked in surprise. I wanted to talk to you, Lily said. My dad told me about his offer. They walked together down the quiet street. The night was cool but pleasant. Your father is a very powerful man, Kate said carefully. I'm not sure I understand what he wants from me. Lily smiled. He wants to learn from you. You helped me when I was sad. You listened to me about wanting to study art. After talking with you, I finally stood up to my dad. And you know what? He listened. We're looking at art schools together now. Kate stopped walking. Really? That's wonderful, Lily. It's because of you, Lily continued. Dad saw how you helped me. Now he's trying to change. He took a leave from his company to spend more time with me. He hasn't done that since Mom died. Kate felt a strange mix of emotions. I didn't do anything special. I just treated you like a person with valid feelings. That was special to me, Lily said quietly. And to Dad. He's realizing money isn't everything. He wants to use his resources to help people now. Please give him a chance. Kate thought about the mysterious payment of her mother's medical bills. Could that have been Richard? The timing seemed too perfect to be coincidence. Was your father behind my mother's hospital bills being paid? Kate asked directly. Lily looked surprised. Then understanding dawned on her face. I don't know for sure, but it sounds like something he would do now. He's changing, Kate. After Lily left, Kate walked to her apartment building. She noticed a new sign on the front, building under new management. There was also a notice that renovations would begin next month, but no residents would be displaced and rent would remain the same. Kate had a strong suspicion about who the new owner might be. The next day, Kate returned to Blue Water and asked to speak with Richard. I've thought about your offer, she said when they were alone. I'll accept, but on one condition. Richard raised an eyebrow. What condition? I want to start a program for other service workers like me, Kate explained. People who want to advance their education or careers but need support. Reduced work hours during exam periods, tuition assistance, that sort of thing. Richard smiled. That's an excellent idea. I was thinking of expanding this model to other businesses if it works. Well, here. So we have a deal? Kate asked, extending her hand. Richard shook it firmly. We have a deal. Over the next few weeks, Kate learned the management side of the restaurant business. Richard was a patient teacher, explaining the financial aspects clearly. Kate found she had a natural talent for organization and leadership. The staff respected her because she had worked alongside them and understood their challenges. Richard visited often, sometimes with Lily. Kate noticed the change in their relationship. They laughed together now. Lily talked excitedly about art schools while Richard listened with genuine interest. The pain was still there in their eyes sometimes. The loss of Paula would always be part of them. But they were healing. One evening after the restaurant closed, Richard stayed to help Kate with the books. Can I ask you something personal? Kate said. Richard nodded. Of course. Why did you really do all this? Buy this restaurant, pay my mother's medical bills, purchase my apartment building. It can't just be because I was nice to your daughter." Richard was quiet for a moment. "When my wife died, I threw myself into work. I thought making more money, building a bigger legacy, was what mattered. But I was miserable, and I was making Lily miserable too. Then I saw you. Someone with so little compared to me, yet so much happier, so much more connected to others. You reminded me of Paula. She always saw the best in people, always helped others without expecting anything in return." Kate felt tears in her eyes. "I'm nothing special, Richard." "But you are," he insisted. "You showed me what really matters in life. And you helped me connect with my daughter again. How can I repay that?" "You don't need to," Kate said. "That's the point. Kindness isn't about repayment." Richard smiled. "I'm learning that, slowly." As they finished the accounting work, Kate realized something important had shifted in her life. She had always believed in working hard and being kind, even when life was difficult. Now she saw that those values could create ripples far beyond what she imagined. Her simple act of comforting a crying teenager had somehow changed a billionaire's perspective, and now he was using his vast resources to help others. The transformation wasn't just in Richard's life. Kate's life was changing too, for the first time. She could see a future where she wasn't constantly struggling, where she could finish her education without exhaustion, where she could truly make a difference. And it had all started with a moment of kindness in a restaurant hallway. 6 months passed quickly. Spring arrived, bringing new life to the city. Trees bloomed along the streets, and people seemed happier as the days grew longer and warmer. Kate stood in front of her bathroom mirror, adjusting her graduation cap. Today, she would finally receive her teaching degree. After years of struggle and sacrifice, she had reached her goal. She smoothed her simple blue dress and took a deep breath. So much had changed in the last half year. She now lived in a renovated apartment in her old building. The renovation had transformed not just her unit but the entire structure. New plumbing, electrical systems, a fresh coat of paint, and a community garden on the roof. Best of all, the rent remained affordable for everyone. Kate no longer needed 3 jobs. As manager of Blue Water, she earned enough to live comfortably while completing her studies. Richard had been true to his word about flexible hours. During finals week, he had even stepped in to manage the restaurant himself so Kate could focus on her exams. The program they had started for service workers had grown beyond the restaurant. 20 people were now receiving support to advance their education or career training. Richard had expanded the model to other businesses he purchased: a coffee shop chain, a cleaning service, a delivery company. In each case, he kept the existing staff and improved working conditions. Kate's mother had fully recovered and recently moved to the city to be closer to her daughter. Susan now worked part-time in the community garden, teaching residents how to grow vegetables and flowers. Her healthcare needs were covered by a comprehensive insurance plan Richard had set up for all employees of his new community-focused businesses. A knock at the door interrupted Kate's thoughts. "Kate, are you ready?" called Lily's voice. Kate opened the door to find Lily beaming at her. At 17, Lily had grown more confident over the past months. Her art had improved too. She had been accepted to several prestigious art schools, and had finally decided on one in the city so she could remain close to her father. "You look great," Lily said, hugging Kate. "Dad's waiting in the car." Richard's relationship with his daughter had healed significantly. They still had their disagreements, but now they talked through them instead of pulling away from each other. Richard had learned to listen, and Lily had learned to express her feelings more clearly. As they drove to the university, Kate felt nervous excitement. She would be the first person in her family to earn a college degree. "Are you ready for your car?" "Big day?" Richard asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "As ready as I'll ever be," Kate replied. "I still can't believe I'm actually graduating." "You earned it," Richard said. "No one worked harder than you." The graduation ceremony was held in the university's grand auditorium. Kate sat among her classmates, many of whom had similar stories of struggle and perseverance. When her name was called, she heard cheers from the audience. Looking up, she saw Richard, Lily, and her mother standing and applauding. Afterward, they celebrated with lunch at Blue Water. The staff had decorated a special table with flowers and a congratulations graduate banner. Kate felt overwhelmed by their kindness and support. "I have something for you," Richard said, handing her a small gift box. Inside was a beautiful pen with her name engraved on it. "Every teacher needs a good pen," Richard explained. "Thank you," Kate said, touched by the thoughtful gift. "For everything?" "We're not done yet," Richard said with a smile. "There's something else I want to show you." After lunch, Richard drove them to an unfamiliar part of the city. They stopped in front of a large, newly renovated building. A sign over the entrance read Susan Miller Community Education Center. Kate stared in shock. "What is this?" "Your graduation present," Richard said, handing her a set of keys. "It's a community center with free childcare, education resources, and job training for low-income families." Kate's hand trembled as she took the keys. "You named it after my mother?" Susan Miller wiped tears from her eyes. "He told me about it last week. I still can't believe it." "The center needs a director," Richard continued. "Someone who understands both education and the challenges facing working families. I was hoping you might be interested in the position." Kate couldn't speak. This was beyond anything she had ever imagined, a chance to help people like herself on a much larger scale. "Let's take a look inside," Lily suggested, taking Kate's arm. The building was amazing. Bright, clean classrooms for children and adults, a computer lab with new equipment, a library filled with books, a playground in the back. Everything needed to support families trying to improve their lives. "We've already hired staff," Richard explained as they toured the facility. "Teachers, childcare workers, job counselors. They're ready to start as soon as you give the word." "Why me?" Kate asked finally. "You could hire anyone with more experience to run this place." Richard's expression grew serious. "Because you understand what these families need, you've lived it, and you have the heart for this work." Kate walked through the center, imagining the lives that could be changed here. Children having a safe place to learn while their parents worked or studied. Adults gaining skills for better jobs. Families breaking the cycle of poverty. "This is what I've always dreamed of," Kate admitted, "creating opportunities for people who just need a chance." "Then say yes," Lily urged. Kate looked at Richard. "What about the restaurant? And the worker program we started?" "Ben has proven himself capable of managing Blue Water," Richard said, "and the program will continue. But this center can help so many more people. It's the natural next step." That evening, they sat in the center's courtyard watching the sunset. Kate's mother had gone home to rest, but Kate, Richard, and Lily remained, talking about possibilities for the future. "I never imagined my life could change so much," Kate said. "A year ago, I was working 3 jobs and barely making ends meet. And I was a miserable billionaire who had forgotten what really matters," Richard added with a wry smile. Lily looked between them. "And I was a sad, angry teenager. We've all changed." Kate thought about the strange path that had brought them together. One moment in a restaurant hallway, a teenage girl crying, a simple act of kindness, and now this, a partnership that was changing not just their lives, but potentially thousands of others. "When does the center open?" Kate asked. "Whenever you're ready," Richard replied. "The staff can start training next week if you want." Kate nodded, her decision made. "Then let's do it. Let's give people the chances they deserve." Later, as Richard drove Kate home, they sat in comfortable silence for a while. "You know," Kate said finally, "when people hear this story, a billionaire, helping a waitress, they'll think it's just about money, about you being generous with your wealth." Richard glanced at her. "But that's not what it's about at all, is it?" "No," Kate agreed. "It's about seeing people for who they really are. About connecting and caring. The money just makes it possible to help on a bigger scale." "You taught me that," Richard said. "You saw Lily when I couldn't. You saw value in people I would have overlooked." You changed my perspective." As they pulled up to Kate's apartment building, the sky had darkened to deep blue. Stars were beginning to appear. "Tomorrow's a big day," Richard said. "First day of planning for the center." Kate smiled. "I can't wait." She got out of the car and waved as Richard drove away. Standing outside her building, Kate looked up at the stars and thought about how unexpected life could be. How a single moment of kindness could ripple outward, touching lives in ways you could never predict. The Susan Miller Community Education Center would be her life's work now, helping others find their paths, just as she had found hers. And it had all started because she had noticed a crying girl in a restaurant hallway and taken the time to comfort her. Some would call what Richard had done for her unthinkable, a billionaire using his fortune to help a waitress and countless others like her. But Kate knew the truly unthinkable act had been much simpler. Choosing kindness when it would have been easier to look away. That choice had changed everything.